So if you watched all 50 minutes of the last video, I forgot a couple things that I wanted to fix. These cabin boards, or whatever you call them, are like the plastic wood. They're pretty crappy, and they're gross. But also, additionally, I've thought about some safety modifications. I'd like to have new boards entirely. I'd like them to be there to be no gaps between them, so they're more weather resistant for heat. So wooden boards with a lip over any of the seams. They need to be able to get locked in so they wouldn't float away in a capsize or if the boat got swamped. So I haven't figured out how that would go yet, because without being totally inconvenient. Obviously, normally you're not going to lock them in, but when you did some kind of a clasp there. I've also thought about making this bottom two pieces into one, or the top two pieces into one. So sometimes for privacy, I like to leave the bottom two in if I'm at a dock or at the mooring. Well, never at a dock, but anyway, at the mooring or on anchor in a crowded place. For privacy, because that basically means that nobody can see in the boat, even then you still get some fresh air. So maybe the bottom two together as one piece, and then a separate one. But then I also thought the bottom one, and then two separate ones, and then maybe with like a hatch in here. So if this was two together, you could open it. It would have like a small port basically, and you could open the port so you could see what was going on and still be in the cabin, and it might have a little window or just a window. Anyway, so that's one thing there, and and also I'd like to potentially have them insulated, or just a little thicker to keep some more heat in, because that's definitely a heat trap, or heat not trap, escape. All right, so that's that. Let me think if there's anything else. Here's another thing. These little there's all these screw heads. So I need to get taken down. They're pretty dangerous. Luckily, not luckily, but I'm not tall enough to hurt myself on them. I was just thinking now I could get, instead of, because some of them have been taken off at random lengths, but if I'm wondering about taking them off there short, and then getting nuts, like getting round-headed nuts, so at least there's something round on top. Or I don't know if there's such a thing as like a rubber-headed nut. That'd be ideal. I only have the one hand grasp here, and I think obviously more would be superior here. And I was thinking one right here, right above the hatch, or by the hatch. So when you're coming down the companionway stairs, you could grab onto that. So you have good handrails, and then probably there should be something here too to grab yourself on deck. Oh, and also I forgot, I need to get some harnesses. I didn't have a harness this year, and so what I read is that you should have one that you can attach onto when you're coming out of the cockpit. So I was thinking like one that would go from sort of just in the cockpit, a line from here to the tiller, and then to one on port, one on starboard, going from the aft section to forward, obviously, and that's that. And additionally, while we're looking there, I've been pondering getting a generator, because I don't have any kind of an alternator for the engine, and so super cheap Harbor Freight generator is like $200. Probably might not be adequate. It's a 2-stroke, so it's probably loud and a little stinky. A really good Honda mini generator is between $700 and $1,000, $700 and $1,000, $700 on eBay used. So and I was thinking I could put it up sort of in front of where the gas tank is, next to the mast. I don't really access that because everything is led back here, so that space isn't necessarily usable. Also notice my jib halyard is fouled on the topping left. It's not really a huge deal, but it's not very good. So that's that, and what else? I may have to modify these chucks for the dinghy if I get a new dinghy. But yeah. And I was also thinking about deck boxes. The this morning I was pondering moving the propane tank up to the mast, so there would be the generator on one side and the propane tank on the other. It'd be pretty interesting if it was a propane-powered generator, but that's a whole different deal. I don't even know if those exist, so forget I said it. If I did that, then I'd have this area here to make a deck box, which would probably be ultimately a more useful use of that space, because for one thing it would make the cockpit smaller, so swamping would be less of an issue, and it would, there's a lot of stuff that would be really nice to have accessible, like foul weather gear, charts, log, things that I don't want to get wet but I would like to have in the cockpit. So there would be a deck box there, and then also a deck box, sorry, just continuing, so there would be a deck box there and a deck box there, so that would be a lot of storage. I mean, it could even be food stuff, and doesn't have to be stuff that's immediately needed, but another thought is where to put the sails. I don't really think that there's space under these bins, but it'd be nice to have them out of the cockpit, I mean out of the cabin, because that's a big amount of space they take up, and they are bulky and get in the way. I could keep them up in the V-berth, like on top, but that doesn't really make sense either, so but they're large. I don't think they would really fit here very well. So that's a whole another process or thought or something. What are we talking about?